beloved chosen one. Heaven is speaking tonight. Not tomorrow, not someday. Now, while the world is scrolling and the city is sleeping, heaven has pressed pause on your timeline to release a scroll with your name engraved on it. This isn't just another piece of content. This is your activation hour. You didn't land here by accident. You were summoned. Everything in the spirit realm has shifted. The sound you've been feeling, the tension in your chest, the fire in your bones, it's not anxiety. It's prophecy shaking inside you. And God is saying, tonight, I speak directly to the sealed, to the ones who felt hidden, tired, stretched, overlooked, but never disqualified. And heaven has gathered around your obedience. The angels are leaning in. The enemy is retreating. And God has one word for you: awaken. And this is not just a nice message, it is a divine interruption. It's a rerouting of your soul. You have been walking, surviving, enduring. But now, something is shifting in the realm of glory. This is your confirmation. This is your call. This is the moment heaven says, your destiny is being activated tonight. And pause for a second and let that settle. Let it ring louder than your doubts, louder than your disappointment, louder than the voice in your head that says, you're not ready. Because the truth is, you've been prepared in silence for what's being released in power. And this word is not for the crowd, it's for the sealed. You've carried too much for too long to stay where you are. You've dreamed things that terrified you, wept over people who never knew your name, walked through seasons that didn't make sense. But God never wastes weight. Every hidden moment was adding pressure to your calling, and now the heavens are opening. Can you feel it? Can you sense that what you've been surviving was never about survival, it was about summoning? Because God never activates what he hasn't refined. And now comes the divine reversal. From hidden to highlighted, from pressed to positioned, from burden to burning with purpose. Heaven has timed this night for you. You thought it was another evening, another video, another scroll, but God has chosen this hour to whisper something into your spirit that changes everything. You're not in a waiting room. You're on the launch pad of destiny. Tonight, your name echoes in the courts of heaven. Chosen one. This is a holy night, a set-apart moment. And the instruction is clear: no more delay. Not in your prayer life, not in your obedience, not in your yes. End quote. Because God isn't just calling you, he's activating you. He's placing divine demand on what he's hidden in you. And the same power that raised Christ from the grave is now hovering over your life, waiting to be welcomed in. There's oil waiting for the vessel. There's fire waiting for your altar. There's weight that's been looking for a willing heart. Tonight, the spotlight is not on your performance, it's on your positioning. Heaven is searching for agreement, for availability, for surrender. And if you say yes, something in the atmosphere will shift now. Your yes tonight will ripple through realms. Because you are not just chosen, you are marked for movement. You are not just gifted, you are appointed. You are not just stirred, you are sent. And every demon that's tracked your life, every spirit that's tried to silence your voice, every pattern that's tried to trap your growth, they all sense the shift that's coming. Because your spirit is about to step into what your heart has always known. You were born for this. You were born to shake kingdoms, to rebuild altars, to awaken bloodlines, to walk in places that once intimidated you. This is the night, heaven says. It begins lie, as we read in the book of Isaiah, chapter 60, verse 1 says, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord rises upon you." Lie. So what now? Let your heart respond. Let your hands move. Let your spirit agree. Like this message as a public amen. Share it with someone else who's felt the same burning inside. Subscribe if you haven't. This won't be the last scroll. Heaven delivers through this stream. And finally, if your spirit hears this as truth, comment this number below as a prophetic act. Type 777. This isn't for superstition. It's for sealing. It says, "This word was mine. This moment is real. This night activates me. And you were chosen. You are ready." And tonight, heaven moves. Marked in the midnight hour, chosen one. Do you realize how many things God does in the dark? When others sleep, heaven writes. When the world grows silent, God begins to move. The most powerful transitions in Scripture, the most defining moments happened, not in the noise of the day, but in the mystery of night. Because darkness doesn't intimidate God, it reveals His precision. It was at midnight that the cry went out, "Here's the bridegroom, come out to meet him." End of quote. It was in the night that Jacob wrestled with God and came out limping but changed. It was while Paul and Silas were singing hymns at midnight that chains broke and prison doors flew open. And now, here you are, awake, searching, stirred in your spirit while others rest. That's not insomniate's invitation. That's not a restless mind. It's the sound of God summoning you to attention. You are being marked in the midnight hour, not because you are perfect, but because you are present, because your heart is open, because your spirit is leaning in, because God has watched you endure, survive, surrender, and now, in this very moment of night, He says, "Now I mark you for more." There is something sacred about those who respond in the dark, when you can't see clearly, when no one is affirming you, when the noise has stopped and it's just you, your spirit, and the whisper of God. It's here in the unseen, unshared, uncelebrated hours that heaven performs divine surgery. Here, your identity is etched deeper. Here, the scroll is handed to you, not in ceremony, but in secrecy, because the most dangerous vessels in the kingdom aren't the ones everyone celebrates in daylight. They're the ones heaven whispered to at midnight. You've been wrestling with questions, asking why the stirring won't leave, wondering why your spirit is heavy when nothing's wrong. And it's because the midnight moment is near, the time when God says, "I'm no longer just speaking to you, I'm about to brand you." There is a weight being transferred, a mantle being placed, not with lights, not with ceremony, but in the quiet echo of the midnight hour. And it will feel like a burning in your chest, a gravity in your heart, a moment of holy discomfort where nothing around you changes, but everything within you shifts. Chosen one. This is not emotional hype. This is heavenly handling. This is what happens when God chooses to place the unseen mark of assignment on a vessel who says yes without needing explanation. It's what happened to Samuel when he heard the voice call his name in the temple while the lamp of God still burned, but no one else recognized it. It's what happened to Moses when he turned aside at the burning bush alone and received the instruction that would shake Pharaoh's kingdom. It's what happened to Mary when an angel entered quietly, and released a word that would change the course of humanity in the dark of night. And now, it's your moment. Heaven has found a soul awake when others slumber. Not just physically awake, but spiritually responsive. You're not distracted. You're not running. You're not pretending. You are here. And in your "here I am," God is pouring oil for the new hour. Not recycled anointing, not borrowed faith, not echoed revelation, but fresh fire marked for midnight. What's happening in you right now will not make sense to everyone. That's okay. You weren't chosen to be understood. You were chosen to be obedient. Because midnight oil only burns for those willing to remain present in the dark. There is an impartation happening even now. No laying on of hands. No public ordination. Just the breath of God touching your spirit through the unseen corridor of the night. And what He's releasing isn't for entertainment. It's for warfare. It's for alignment. It's for generational repair. Because you are not just being marked for yourself, you are being marked on behalf of others. For your bloodline, for those trapped in cycles, for those who never knew this level of access was even possible. Midnight is a holy moment. Don't confuse the lack of noise for a lack of movement. In the spirit realm, this hour is blazing with intention. The heavens are open not with thunder, but with precision, and the oil is falling quietly. It's not the type that will make headlines. It's the kind that will make demons flee without warning. Because when God marks you at midnight, what rests on you cannot be copied, stolen, or explained. It's not on your clothes, it's in your spirit. And once it's there, nothing is ever the same again. So, if you feel the stirring, if your soul has been burning with no language for days, if you felt the tension without clarity, this is it. This is the moment where your spirit crosses a threshold, and you may never be able to describe it fully. But you'll know, midnight came and God found you awake. Delay does not mean denial. Chosen one. You've been walking through a season that has tested every fiber of your faith. Promises spoken over your life have seemed to pause. Prophetic words declared years ago still hang in the air. Waiting. Doors you thought would open stayed shut. Opportunities faded. And you began to wonder, did I miss it? Did I misunderstand? But listen, your delay is not rejection. It is divine design. Because when God seals someone for significant impact, He withholds to prepare. He conceals to refine. He delays not to deny but to deliver the weight at the right moment. The worst thing that could happen to you is premature visibility, favor before formation, influence before identity is anchored. God's delays are mercies in disguise, because He knows what the call will demand from you. And instead of feeding your impatience, He has chosen to build in you something that can last when the winds of promotion blow. The time in between calling and fulfillment is not wasted. It's wait room time. Heaven has been preparing your voice, your character, your discernment. You've been growing underground like a tree roots first, before fruit. Yes. You've watched others rise. Yes. You've seen people pass you by. Yes. You've cried behind closed doors asking, when? Lord. But what they didn't have to carry, you did. You weren't overlooked. You were overprepared. Because what's coming on your life cannot be handled by shallow faith or immature reactions. God has allowed the wait, so your spirit would be fortified, not fragile, anchored in truth, unmoved by attention, purified of every motive that could contaminate your assignment. Sometimes, the delay was because the people connected to your next season weren't ready yet. Sometimes, God delayed the open door because you would have walked in with the wrong mindset. Sometimes, the wait wasn't about withholding, it was about protecting. You didn't see the warfare, he blocked. You didn't hear the conversations, he shut down. You didn't feel the attacks, he cancelled in secret. Because while you waited in frustration, God was moving in orchestration. Every divine delay was aligning timing, people, places, and purpose in a way only he could. And if he had let you move too early, you would have walked into a war unarmed. You would have stepped into a spotlight your soul wasn't ready for. You would have reached for things that seemed good but weren't God. He allowed you to be hidden so you could be healed. He slowed your momentum to preserve your mantle. And now, as heaven whispers again, you're being called into a moment of clarity. The delay was the protection. The delay was the preparation. And you're not behind. You're on schedule. When Joseph was thrown in the pit, then the prison, it looked like delay. But it was divine choreography setting him up to interpret Pharaoh's dream at exactly the right time. When David was anointed king as a young man, but returned to the sheep, instead of the thronite, looked like delay. But God was building a worshipper before installing a warrior. And when Jesus waited 30 years to begin a 3-year ministry, it wasn't delay. It was heavenly precision. So what you call delay, God calls process. And now, if your spirit has been sensing movement again, if you've felt a shift without language, a holy tension in your belly, a knowing that something is breaking open, then take this as confirmation. Your delay is ending. The waiting room is becoming a launching pad. The silence is giving way to instruction. The stillness is turning into activation. You don't have to beg. You don't have to manipulate. You don't have to chase. When it's time, he will open the door. You don't have to knock on. And it will not be delayed one day longer than necessary. As the prophet Habakkuk recorded in chapter 2, verse 3, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time. It speaks of the end and will not prove false. Though it linger, wait for it. It will certainly come and will not delay." This is your appointed time. The delay had a purpose, but the purpose is now fulfilled. So don't look back in resentment. Look forward in readiness. Don't waste time comparing. Use your strength to prepare. Don't question if you're worthy. You were chosen before the foundation of the world. And if your spirit knows this word was specifically timed for you, pause, breathe, and respond with faith. Comment below. Delay had purpose. Then, just those 3 words. Why? Because when you speak agreement, you seal revelation. When you comment from the Spirit, you come into alignment. And tonight, that agreement becomes activation. Heaven did not forget you. The delay was never denial. And now everything hidden is about to unfold. This night is not ordinary. There are nights where nothing happens. Just sleep, routine, and silence. But then there are nights like this nights when heaven leans in closer, when the veil thins, when something divine begins stirring in the spirit realm, and your soul feels the tremor before your mind can grasp it. Chosen one. This is one of those nights. Not because it's comfortable, not because it looks dramatic, but because it has been appointed by God Himself as a turning point, A threshold moment where spiritual instructions are released, assignments are shifted, and destinies are activated in silence. The shift is happening quietly, but it is not small. You may not feel thunder in your room. You may not hear angels with your ears. But if you listen closely, not with your flesh, but with your spirit, you'll know something is moving. Heaven doesn't need spectacle to make history. When God wanted to change the world, He sent Jesus as a baby. When He wanted to free Israel, He whispered to a burning bush. When He chose to raise Lazarus, He called him from the tomb with just 3 words. What's happening tonight doesn't need noise. It just needs your awareness. This moment may pass the average person by. They'll sleep through it, scroll past it, laugh at it. But for the sealed, this moment is different. It's not hype, it's holy. God often moves in hours, others dismiss. At midnight, Pharaoh's power broke. In the stillness of night, the angel passed over. In the quiet hour, chains fell off. Peter in prison. And now here you are stirred in a sacred hour because heaven has business with you. Don't miss this just because it feels unfamiliar. Sometimes, what's divine doesn't feel loud, it feels weighty. The room doesn't shake, but your soul does. Your hands don't tremble, but your calling does. You don't need lightning bolts to know this is a spiritual appointment. You need discernment, stillness, and a spirit that can recognize the visitation in the silence. This is a moment that divides timelines. Before this night, you waited. After this night, you walk. Before this night, you carried the promise. After this night, you carry power. This is not emotion, it's activation. Something invisible is being set in motion. A signal has gone out in the spirit realm, marking you as ready. The warfare you felt wasn't coincidence, it was because the enemy saw this night coming. He tried to tire you, distract you, discourage you, but none of it worked. Because now, you're here, and heaven is responding. This is the moment the mantle begins to fit. Not the external image, not a title, but the inward alignment. The part of you that used to shrink now stretches. The voice that used to whisper now speaks clearly. The authority you once questioned now rises with certainty. This moment won't look the same for everyone. For some, it will be deep peace. For others, weeping without reason. For others still, just a steady fire in the belly that won't go out. Whatever it looks like, don't ignore it. God is assigning instructions tonight. Assignments, shifts, silent promotion. Some of what's being released you won't understand until months later. Some doors won't open until you take the first step in the dark. But know this tonight was not ordinary. There are angelic movements tied to this hour. There are generational curses that just lost their grip. There are cycles that just ended because you said yes in your spirit. Even if you didn't speak it out loud, God heard it. Because God responds to spirit more than sound. And He has seen your agreement, even in your stillness. You weren't crazy to feel stirred. You weren't overthinking. The pull you felt tonight is heaven calling your name. As it was in the first book of Samuel, chapter 3, verse 10 says, Then the Lord came and stood there, calling as at the other times, Samuel, Samuel. And Samuel said, Speak, for your servant is listening. And this is your response moment, not one of volume, but one of posture. God isn't waiting for you to be loud. He's waiting for you to be awake. You are not just passing through time anymore. Time is now responding to you. From this night forward, everything begins to shift. And while the world sleeps, you awaken. The scroll is being opened. Heaven has records, not metaphors, not poetry. Actual scrolls, divine blueprints carrying names, assignments, timelines, mantles, and movements, and chosen one. Tonight, your scroll is being unsealed. You've felt it, haven't you? A tension you can't explain. A spiritual pressure rising like a wave about to break. That's not restlessness. It's the weight of something ancient and holy calling your name. Because what's written of you is no longer future, it's active. You are not wandering aimlessly through life. You are walking through a written plan, a scroll authored by heaven, signed by God, sealed with fire. And now, in this precise hour, it begins to open, not because you earned it, but because you've been prepared for it. You've walked through tests no one saw. You've wept prayers no one heard. You've been faithful with nothing in your hand, but everything burning in your belly. And heaven recorded every moment. There are things written about your life that haven't yet been unlocked, not because you were unworthy, but because you weren't yet in position. But now that posture and timing have aligned, the scroll is being released. What scroll? The one that carries your heavenly assignment, the one that speaks of nations you will impact, altars you will rebuild, captives you will liberate, territory you will reclaim. Psalm 40, verse 7 declares, "Then said I, Lo, I come. In the volume of the book it is written of me." And did you hear that? There's a volume, a scroll written of you, not of your fear, not of your sin, not of your past, but of your purpose. And it's being opened because heaven is declaring, time to walk in what was written. And this is why you couldn't fit in, why you couldn't settle, why your soul always knew there was more. Because before your parents saw your face, heaven saw your scroll. And everything God is awakening in you now isn't being created, it's being remembered. You're not stepping into something new, you're stepping into something original. This is why the warfare has been relentless. The enemy doesn't fear your past, fears your scroll. He fears what happens when the sealed begin to see what was spoken about them in heaven's courts. Because once a scroll is activated, it can't be undone. And that's what's happening right now. There's a spiritual opening over your life, a release of blueprints, of names, of divine timing. God is not guessing, He is revealing. And here's the miracle. The scroll isn't just information, it's empowerment. As it opens, grace flows. As it opens, doors move. As it opens, the heavens war on your behalf. You don't need to force anything, just align. You don't need to chase it, just say yes. You don't need to prove yourself. The scroll is your evidence. Everything about you that has been on hold is not being denied, it was waiting for the scroll. And now, the seal has broken. You're about to remember things in prayer you never studied. Dream things that feel ancient. Speak words that shake rooms not because of volume, but because they're written. You're becoming a living scroll. And as you move forward, people will feel the weight of what you carry. Some will be drawn to it. Others will be repelled by it. But none will be able to ignore it. Because the scroll speaks louder than titles, You may not have a position, but you have permission. You may not have connections, but you have a commission. You may not know what's next, but the scroll does. And your obedience is the key that unfolds the next line, the next name, the next door. This is the hour to walk with intention, to speak with clarity, to move like you've been read aloud in heaven. Chosen one, the scroll is open. And if this word resonates in your bones, if you know this moment is not random, then don't stay silent. Like this message as a witness to your spirit. Subscribe so you never miss another instruction, because scrolls rarely open twice the same way. And if your scroll is stirring, if your spirit is burning, then share this with someone whose name is also on the edge of activation. There's a generation rising. Scroll bearers, marked ones, voices that echo what was written before time began. And tonight, one of them is you. You've survived what was meant to destroy you. Chosen one. Before you even knew you were marked. The enemy already had your name on his radar. From childhood, from the very beginning. Because sealed souls shine early, even before they understand why. That's why the warfare started so young. Why the rejection hit so hard. Why the pain ran so deep. You weren't just under attack, you were being targeted. But here's what the darkness underestimated. You would endure. Not because you were strong, not because you had it all figured out, but because deep within your spirit was a yes that refused to die. A yes that kept crawling forward, even when you had no vision. A yes that kept worshipping when your heart was shattered. A yes that heaven would not let go. There were nights the tears drowned your voice. Days where silence echoed louder than answers. Moments where giving up felt more honest than holding on. And yet, you're still here. That is not weakness. That is evidence. Proof that the anointing on your life is heavier than the hell against it. You have endured things that should have made your faith collapse. But the seal on your life would not let you go numb, even when you drifted. God kept calling, even when you failed. Grace kept reaching, even when you stopped praying. Heaven kept defending you. Why? Because your destiny is not fragilite, is forged. Every fire you passed through wasn't just survival, it was activation. Every betrayal was a furnace. Every loss was a refining. And every delay was heaven saying, "Not yet. I'm not done building them." Lent, you weren't overlooked. You were being overbuilt. The shaking didn't come to destroy you, it came to loosen what wasn't part of your next season. The heartbreak didn't come to ruin your heart, it came to reset your focus. And the wilderness didn't come to kill you, it came to teach you how to hear God without noise. You are not soft. You are not stuck. You are seasoned. This is what the enemy doesn't want you to realize. You're dangerous now, because you've been through the kind of crushing that can't be faked. The kind that produces real oil. You've been stretched until nothing was left but surrender. And it was in that place low, trembling, barely breathing, that heaven whispered, "Now they're ready." You didn't get here through shortcuts. You got here through scars. You are walking, breathing, burning proof that resilience is spiritual warfare. You've been kept by mercy, by covenant, by a calling too weighty to walk away from. You didn't know it. But while you were surviving, heaven was upgrading you. Your discernment sharpened. Your prayer life deepened. Your voice began to carry weight. And your name began to be whispered in realms your feet haven't touched yet. You see, Surviving wasn't the end. Golit was the entrance to authority. You don't have to fight to be seen anymore. You are already known in places that matter. You don't have to beg for access. You carry keys. The people, the platforms, the moments, they will come. But what matters now is that you understand what survived in you. Hope survived. Vision survived. Kelling survived. That's not random. That's revival. And now, the mantle you thought was delayed is landing. Because God doesn't give scrolls to those who haven't survived fire. He gives it to those who've been in the pit and didn't lose their purity. To those who've been betrayed and didn't retaliate. To those who've been broken and still said, "Here I am, chosen one." This is your moment of realization. You didn't just survive for yourself. You survived for everyone. Your life will unlock. You're about to carry deliverance in your voice, no because you're loud, but because you're free. You're about to walk into rooms that once intimidated you, and you'll speak with quiet fire that shifts the entire atmosphere. You're about to lead without seeking titles, serve without seeking applause, and rise without fearing the fall. Because what was forged in you through pain has become your power. As Paul writes in the second letter to the Corinthians, chapter 4, verses 8 through 9 says, "We are hard-pressed on every side, but not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair, persecuted, but not abandoned, struck down, but not destroyed." And let that word settle in your bones. You were never destroyed, because God was always preserving the part of you that hell couldn't touch your destiny. And now it's time to walk differently. You are no longer in survival mode. You are in deployment mode. And if your spirit knows that this message is for you, if you feel the fire rising as these words hit your chest, then respond in agreement with this prophetic act. Comment 888, 3/8. The biblical number of resurrection, of new beginnings, of covenant cycles, complete. This is more than a number. It's a statement, a declaration that says, "I've survived, and I will not return to silence." And you are ready, and what's coming will not break you, will reveal you. Heaven trusts you with fire. Not everyone is trusted with flames. Some carry titles, others carry talents, but few are entrusted with something far more dangerous and sacred, fire. And you, chosen one, are among them. This fire is not emotional hype. It's not for show. It's not just zeal. It's not loud or flashy or always visible. This fire is refining, purifying, and costly. It has burned through you silently for years, transforming your motives, stripping away false identities, exposing what was weak and fortifying what was true. And the reason you felt different for so long is because God didn't just choose you to survive. He chose you to carry fire. You didn't apply for this. You didn't strive for it. You were chosen for it. There were days when the weight of the assignment felt unbearable. Times when you questioned whether God had mistaken you for someone stronger. But the fire never left. Even when your strength failed. Even when your vision blurred. Even when you whispered, "God, I can't do this anymore." Then, still, the flame remained. Why? Because heaven doesn't place fire on those who can perform. It places fire on those who can be trusted. And the reason the flame grew hotter in the last season is because the trust deepened. God looked at your brokenness and said, "I can still use them. He saw your quiet yes and said, "They won't use this fire to burn others. They'll use it to light the way." And a fire does not entertain, it purifies. It does not flatter, it tests. And it's the only thing that transfers power without corruption. This is what you've been trusted with. You don't just carry passion, you carry a refiner's flame. And it shows in how you walk through trials, not with arrogance, but with anchored assurance. It shows in how you speak not to impress, but to impart. It shows in how you respond to attack not with ego, but with fire-forged endurance. Others noticed the way you shifted, how your conversations grew deeper, how your presence grew heavier. They couldn't explain it, but they knew something had changed. That's because the fire began to mark your essence. It started to burn through fear. It started to burn away hesitation. It started to burn off the chains others couldn't even see. You began walking lighter but speaking heavier. And now, the atmosphere changes when you enter, not because of you, but because of what you carry. This fire is holy. It is not yours, it was lent to you, given for a purpose, protected by obedience. And now, it's starting to spread. But fire demands stewardship. You cannot carry this and remain casual. You cannot carry this and seek crowds. You cannot carry this and play with compromise. Fire either consumes or is contained by character. And God has waited until now to let it spread, because now you are ready to steward it with wisdom. You are not just being used, you are being trusted. Heaven didn't light this to make you loud, it lit this to make you effective. You can't be bought. You won't be manipulated. You won't bow to culture, because the fire in you burns hotter than the pressure around you. It is the same fire that burned in the bush with Moses and didn't consume it. The same fire that fell at Mount Carmel when Elijah prayed. The same fire that rested like tongues above the disciples when the Holy Spirit came. It is not ordinary, and it is not temporary. What's on you now is permanent alignment. God has forged you in obscurity so you could carry fire without losing yourself in exposure. Because when the time comes and it is near, you won't need to announce yourself. The fire will speak. People will say, "I don't know what it is, but something in them shakes me to the core." No, and that's when you'll know heaven has lit a torch in me that no man can extinguish. You are the burning one now, the sealed one, the one that demons recognize before you say a word, the one who doesn't entertain darkness but expels it with quiet authority. Chosen one. You are not like the others. You carry fire, and you've been trusted to release it. God is speaking in dreams. Chosen one. There are messages heaven won't shout in daylight. There are instructions too sacred to be revealed in public. There are scrolls that unfold only in the silence of night, when your mind slows down and your spirit opens wide. And it's in those hours, when your body rests, that God whispers what your soul was born to hear. You are not imagining the shift, the images, the voices, the urgency in your sleep, the dreams that feel more real than reality. It's not random. You've entered the realm of divine communication, because God doesn't just speak through prophecy, preaching, or scripture. He also speaks in symbols, visions, and dreams, language, not of the flesh, but of the spirit realm. And for those who have been sealed, this is one of the most intimate ways he guides, corrects, and calls. You've been waking up unsettled, not in fear but in awareness, not confused but called. You can't explain it. But something's been stirring each time your eyes open after nightfall. You feel like you were somewhere, like you heard something, like something was handed to you, but you don't know how to hold it yet. That's not your imagination. That's revelation. Because sealed ones don't dream like everyone else. Their sleep is not just rest, it becomes a meeting ground. A chamber where God bypasses your natural defenses and begins to unlock mysteries. Joseph's whole destiny was released through dreams. Daniel saved nations because he could interpret them. The wise men were warned by a dream not to return to Herod. And even Pilate's wife dreamt of Jesus the night before his trial. Why? Because when God wants to move, he interrupts the natural with the supernatural. And now, that's what he's doing with you. He's bypassing your logic, cutting past your reasoning, speaking directly to your spirit. You don't have to fully understand it to receive it. You don't need interpretation before you respond in obedience. Some dreams aren't given to decode. They're given to activate something. Your assignment, your intercession, your direction, your correction. Sometimes he'll show you pio plenot, so you can judge them, but so you can pray. Sometimes he'll show you nations not to impress you, but to send you. Sometimes he'll show you battles not to scare you, but to prepare you for victory before impact. And sometimes he'll show you yourself not as you are, but as heaven sees you, crowned, clothed in light, positioned in authority, standing in places your feet haven't yet touched. These are not just dreams. These are installations, downloads, blueprints, codes of destiny that awaken your spiritual memory. Because before you were born, your spirit knew its assignment. And now, through dreams, that memory is being stirred. This is why your dreams have intensified. This is why you're remembering more details. This is why you're waking up in the middle of the night with tears, with fire, with trembling, because the veil is being thinned, and heaven is moving in the night. So don't dismiss what you see in your sleep. Write it down. Ask the Holy Spirit to interpret it in time. Pray into it not from fear, but with faith. Because if God is revealing it, He's also equipping you to respond. And if He hasn't revealed everything yet, don't panic. Sometimes He gives just enough to provoke your pursuit. The dream is the doorway. The prayer is the path. The obedience is the unfolding. This is a training season. God is teaching you how to live with your spirit, awakened. Even while others still sleep, you're being trained in the night so you can rule in the day. Because there are things coming to your life, divine connections, high-level assignments, new realms of influence that can't be handled with just intellect or strategy. They require spiritual intelligence. Dreams are how God builds that. He is sharpening your senses, not for entertainment, but for encounters. Encounters that lead to execution of instructions, intercessions, and interventions. So pay attention to the signs. When the dreams repeat, when the emotions linger, when the symbolism stays with you for days, that's not noise. That's God talking. As the book of Job, chapter 33, verses 15 through 16 reveals, in a dream, in a vision of the night, when deep sleep falls on people as they slumber in their beds, He may speak in their ears and terrify them with warnings. God speaks when your walls are down, and now He's doing that with you. So don't chase the giver of them. Don't obsess over interpretation, obsess over obedience. You are being trained as a dreamer. Yes, but more than that. As a strategic intercessor in the night, a person heaven trusts to handle messages that are not public, but prophetic, not to be posted, but to be prayed. Because what's being revealed in the night will soon manifest in the daylight of your destiny. And when it does, you'll recognize it, because you've already seen it before. The oil is falling tonight. Chosen one. There are moments where heaven watches. Then there are moments where heaven moves. And when movement comes, it is marked by one thing above all others: the oil. Not physical oil, not symbolic oil, but the real thing, the oil that sets people apart, breaks yokes, and marks you for assignment. Tonight is such a moment. You may not feel ready, you may not feel worthy, but the oil does not fall because of perfection, it falls because of posture. You've been positioned through pain, through crushing, through obedience when no one was clapping, through silence when no one confirmed your yes. And now heaven says, they're ready. The oil is not earned. It's not bought. It's not inherited by bloodline. It's granted to those who have been pressed and didn't walk away. What you felt recently, the tears, the restlessness, the sudden increase in hunger for prayer is not emotional instability. It's spiritual preparation. The spirit realm has sensed this night coming long before you did. And now, the oil is falling. Not for popularity, not for clout, but for power. There are mantles that cannot be worn until oil rests upon the soul. There are assignments you could not complete in your last season, not because you were incapable, but because you were unanointed for it. But tonight, that changes. There is an oil coming to your life that will clarify your assignment, break the fog around your identity, separate you from the distractions you couldn't shake, attract the instructions you've been waiting for. This oil doesn't make you famous, it makes you dangerous to darkness. You will walk differently after tonight, not because your posture changes, but because your presence changes. The weight of God will begin to manifest, not just in your words, but in your atmosphere. You'll begin to walk into rooms, and the climate will shift. People will say, "There's something different about you." It's not your clothes. It's not your volume. It's the oil. And this is the kind that can't be mimicked. There is counterfeit fire, counterfeit platforms, counterfeit honor, but there is no counterfeit for real oil. Only those who've bled in private can carry it. Only those who've been broken and still chose holiness can wear it. Only those who've been crushed and still chose surrender can be trusted with it. And chosen one, you're one of them. This oil is the same oil that marked David while he was still in the field. The same oil that confirmed Jesus before he ever performed a miracle. The same oil that flowed through the hands of the apostles and changed cities. This is not goosebumps. It's government. It's heaven's endorsement. It's authority wrapped in humility. It's the soundless thunder of God moving through an obedient vessel. So, if you've been feeling the shift, know this. It's not just your season that's changing, it's your substance. You are no longer just a believer. You are no longer just a vessel. You are now an anointed instrument of divine disruption. As the prophet Isaiah wrote in chapter 10, verse 27, "And it shall come to pass in that day, that his burden shall be taken away from off thy shoulder, and his yoke from off thy neck, and the yoke shall be destroyed because of the anointing. Lonk, this is that kind of night. The kind where yokes break. The kind where cycles stop. The kind where dry bones start to breathe again because someone decided to say, Lord, pour it on me. Lonk, this is why the pressure has increased. The crushing was preparation for the oil. The isolation was protection for the oil. The silence was reverence for the oil. And no, it is falling. Slow, heavy, consecrated, irreversible. And if your spirit knows this word is for you, don't let it pass like another post. Type below in the comments, let it fall. 3 words. 1 posture, infinite power. Why comment? Because this is not about the algorithm, it's about agreement. When you speak, you seal. When you declare, you receive. Let it fall. Let it mark you. Let it separate you from who you were and launch you into who you were always meant to be. You're not being elevated. You're being oiled. And heaven doesn't pour for no reason. Get ready. This activation is generational. Chosen one. What's happening to you tonight, this shift? This oil, this moment of divine release is not just for you. This is bigger than your feelings, bigger than your platform, bigger than your dreams. You are being activated on behalf of bloodlines, for the sake of nations, and for the healing of generations that suffered in silence before you. This isn't just personal, it's prophetic. You are a breaker, a chain destroyer, a first in your family line, the one who said, "It stops with me." No, every battle you fought, every wilderness you've survived, every unanswered prayer you've whispered was never just about you getting through it. It was about building a bridge for those who never knew breakthrough was possible. You were chosen not because you were the strongest, but because you were the one who would not fold under pressure. You were the one heaven could trust to carry weight. You were the one who wouldn't run from legacy. But repair it. You have ancestors who prayed and never saw, grandmothers who interceded and died in faith, fathers who failed but still passed the longing for something more into your blood. And now, God is answering them through you. This is why it's been so heavy. This is why it's taken so long. This is why your process was nothing like theirs. Because you're not walking in their shadow, you're building what they never had the chance to finish. And now, you are the answer to their groaning. You're the fruit of hidden faith. The living scroll of a prayer, whispered 60 years ago. The divine rebuttal to generational bondage. The chains on your mind weren't just personal battles, they were family strongholds. The confusion you faced wasn't just about purpose, it was a spirit of ancestral resistance. But you said yes anyway. You got up anyway. You kept going anyway. And now heaven says, this activation is not small, it's generational. And the healing that starts with you will echo for decades to come. Your obedience is opening doors your children won't even know were once locked. The freedom you're stepping into tonight will be normal for those who come after you. This is how God builds legacy on surrendered soul. At a time, you're becoming the first voice in your family to speak spiritual clarity, the first to break cycles of fear, silence, poverty, shame, addiction, the first to see clearly, to hear accurately, to walk in prophetic alignment without confusion. And that clarity won't stop with you, it will pour downward. Your healing is not in vain. It's building a framework of identity for children yet unborn. They'll inherit confidence instead of fear. They'll grow up surrounded by prayer instead of pain. They'll see deliverance as a daily culture, not a dramatic crisis. Because of you. Because you dared to go through fire and not lose your faith. Because you chose purity in a culture that celebrates compromise. Because you stayed hidden when everyone else chased a stage. Because you waited for God to form you before He revealed you. That's what real generational builders do. They lay down the version of success the world promotes and choose the slow obedience that changes bloodlines. What you build will outlive you. Your legacy won't be houses or titles. It will be freedom, clarity, spiritual alignment. And when your name is spoken in the years to come, it won't be because of influence. It will be because of impact. As the book of Proverbs, chapter 13, verse 22, declares, "A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children." You're not just leaving resources, you're leaving revelation. A family that knows how to war in prayer. A household that discerns God's voice. A name that hell recognizes and can't infiltrate. And all of that begins tonight with this activation. The oil is flowing through the cracks of your obedience, seeping into places even you don't see yet. It's touching your family. It's moving through your blood. It's rewriting history. And the more you surrender, the more you're securing a future for people who don't even exist yet. Let that sink in. You are not just anointed. You are an architect of generational deliverance. God didn't just seal you for ministry, He sealed you for legacy. So walk differently now, not in pride, but in awareness. The enemy doesn't just see you, he sees what's coming after you. That's why the attacks were so violent. That's why the depression was so heavy. That's why the isolation lasted so long. Because if he could kill your clarity, he could kill your seed's future. But he failed. And now you risen not just for yourself, but for everyone tied to your scroll. This is not light. This is not random. This is activation of an entire bloodline. And if this word is awakening something deep in you, if you know this isn't just your season, but your assignment, then like this message as your agreement, share it with someone else who carries legacy in their belly. Subscribe so you don't miss the next scroll, because this isn't the end. This is the passing of a torch. You've been anointed. Now you've been activated. And what begins tonight will not stop with you. It will echo. It will multiply. It will establish a new lineage of glory. Don't miss the window. Chosen one. There are moments in life where eternity leans close, where time opens like a door, and heaven whispers. Now, these moments don't come often, and when they do, they are not casual. They are windows brief. Divine alignments, when what seemed impossible becomes available, but only for a short while. And right now, one of those windows is standing open before you. It may not look dramatic. It may not feel overwhelming. But in the spirit, everything is shifting. What's available to you tonight may not be accessible tomorrow. Not because God is cruel, but because He moves with timing, not tradition. He is not obligated to operate on your schedule. He works according to Kairos divine timing, set apart from Chronos, the ticking of ordinary time. And in Kairos moments, heaven releases keys, mantles, strategies, and orders to those paying attention. And that's why you're here. You've been drawn into this moment, not for entertainment, but for engagement. Because something in your spirit knows this isn't just another word. This is a door, every time heaven moves. It presents a choice: respond or remain, step in or step back, let go or hold on. And every great movement of God in Scripture hinged on whether the person recognized the window and moved through it. Noah was given a window to build the ark, obeyed before the rain fell. Esther was given a window to speak up before her people were destroyed. Peter stepped out onto the water while the invitation was present. The wise virgins carried oil, ready for the bridegroom's arrival. The foolish ones were too late. Hot does not open doors forever. He opens them for the ready. And readiness is not about perfection, it's about posture. Are you listening? Are you leaning in? Are you willing to step through the unknown even when fear whispers, "Stay where it's safe"? You've been sensing urgency, a nudge in your spirit, a growing unrest with normal. Now, that's not anxiety, it's invitation. It's your spirit recognizing that the season has changed. Even if your surroundings haven't caught up yet, the spiritual weather has shifted, and only those who move with the cloud will access the miracle hidden in motion. This window may look like a risk. It may require surrender. It may ask you to walk away from what's familiar, but what's on the other side of your obedience is something immeasurable. It's not just blessing, it's alignment. It's not just open doors, it's fulfilled purpose. It's not just breakthrough, it's becoming who you were written to be. This moment is testing your sensitivity. Can you recognize God when He doesn't show up in your preferred package? Can you respond when He moves suddenly, without your approval, without explanation? That's the mark of the mature. To say yes without full details. To trust the window more than your comfort. To move because your spirit knows, this is my time. You may not know where the road leads, but you know the window is open now. And that's all heaven requires. A willing vessel, a surrendered soul, a heart that says, if you're moving, I'm coming. No. Because there are certain things heaven will only release when you cross the threshold. Some answers don't come until after the step. Some anointings don't activate until after the obedience. God doesn't give you the full scroll in your current location. He waits for you to move, then releases the next line. And if you stay too long at the edge of the window, I doubt will try to pull you back. Distraction will multiply, delay will become disobedience, and the weight of what could have been will linger longer than the comfort you tried to keep. So don't hesitate now. This window is holy, it's costly, it's precise, and it's for you. God did not bring you this far to tease you. He didn't stir your spirit just to sit you down again. He didn't unlock the scroll only to let it fade. He's watching now not to judge, but to receive your response. And what you do in this moment will determine the rhythm of what unfolds next. This is not a warning rooted in fear. It's an invitation rooted in love. The Father is saying, come, the way is open. Will you move? As Jesus said in the Gospel of Luke, Chapter 19, verse 44 says, you did not recognize the time of your visitation. Let that never be said of you. Let this not be the moment you let pass. Hoping for a second chance, waiting for more confirmation, watching the window while refusing to walk through it. This is the hour. The door is open, and the invitation is burning. So rise, step forward, and walk through the window while it's still open. The angel of acceleration has been released. Chosen one. What would normally take 10 years will now take months. What seemed unreachable last season is suddenly being drawn into reach not by your hustle, but by divine acceleration. This is not hype. This is not fantasy. This is supernatural momentum, and it's already been activated over your life. You're not stepping into a season of slow growth. You're stepping into a surge, not because you're rushing, but because heaven has declared, the time is now. Second, there are moments in history when God doesn't just move, he multiplies. He bends time, erethium's delay. He fast forwards what once crawled, and when that moment comes, those who are sealed feel it before they see it. You've felt that pull lately, haven't you? The sudden urgency, the feeling that you need to get in position. The odd-paced doors opening faster, ideas dropping quicker, things falling into place without effort. That's not coincidence. That's a heavenly being assigned to your timeline. Throughout Scripture, God used angelic messengers not just to warn but to accelerate destinies. An angel came to Mary to fast-track her into divine motherhood. An angel came to Peter to walk him out of a prison cell before sunrise. An angel came to Elijah and fed him for the journey ahead. And now, one has been released over your path, not just to protect, but to accelerate. Why? Because delay is over. Because you've been processed. Because heaven is done waiting for people and systems that couldn't keep pace with your assignment. You've been faithful in what seemed like slowness. You obeyed in the wilderness. You stewarded the little with excellence and surrender. And now the Lord is saying, I'm about to put speed under your feet. 1. This is not carnal ambition, it's kingdom alignment. Acceleration doesn't mean skipping formation. It means heaven has approved your readiness. You won't have time to overthink. You won't have time to second guess. You'll move as the wind moves. Speak as the Spirit leads. Build as the fire burns. Everything is shifting because you said yes when no one was watching. And now, heaven is responding. That thing you thought would take years, it's about to happen in a matter of weeks. That door you thought was closed forever, it's about to swing open like it was never locked. That resource you needed, it's being drawn to you by unseen hands, because when acceleration hits, provision obeys. What once resisted, you will now recognize you, because the seal speaks louder than status. And what was hard before will now be honorably handed to you, because you're moving in God's timing, not man's approval. This is what you've been sensing in your spirit, a divine quickening. Your appetite has changed. Your prayer life is deeper. You're done explaining yourself. You're finally aligned with what you were born to carry, and heaven is wasting no time. This won't be a process of explanation. This will be a journey of demonstration. You won't need to prove anything. You'll just walk it, and the evidence will speak for itself. As Amos chapter 9, verse 13 declares, please specify the book to complete the reference. The days are coming, declares the Lord, when the reaper will be overtaken by the plowman and the planter by the one treading grapes. That's divine acceleration. The harvest coming in before you've even finished planting. This is your window to catch the wind. No fear, no hesitation, no comparison, just full speed obedience. You are not being reckless. You are being rushed by righteousness. So move when he says move. Speak when he says speak. Build when he says now. And rest in knowing this is not forced by you, it's favored by God. Chosen one. This is a Kairos moment. And if your spirit is bearing witness, if you know you're in a supernatural speed up, then don't let this moment pass silently. Comment. Below the number 777. It's not just a number. It's a seal of acceleration. It says, I agree. I receive. I'm ready. End. It marks you as one who moves with the cloud, not the crowd. Heaven has already sent the signal. Now, it's your turn to respond. Acceleration is here. The angel has been released, and your time has just caught divine speed. You were born for fire, chosen one. The heat you felt wasn't punishment. The furnace wasn't accidental. The flames you've walked through rejection, warfare, loss, silence, delay, they were not signs that God abandoned you. They were the evidence that you were born for something that cannot be built in comfort. There are vessels that are formed in safety, and then there are vessels forged in fire. You are the latter. You've been through seasons that didn't make sense. People looked at your life and saw inconsistency, but heaven saw refinement. You lost what others clung to. You were isolated when others celebrated. But all along, something in your soul whispered, I was not made for average. You couldn't shake it. That deep sense of divine disruption. Even when things looked normal on the outside, your spirit was under construction. God wasn't letting you settle. Because He never created you to fit into safe systems. You weren't born for ease. You were born for consecration, for power, for glory forged in pressure. You were born for fire. The kind of fire that doesn't destroy you, but makes you unrecognizable to hell. It was fire that revealed Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego to the nations. It was fire that fell on Elijah's sacrifice and silenced false prophets. It was fire that appeared in Acts 2 when the Spirit fell not a breeze, not a vision, but flames. Because when God marks a person to shift atmospheres, He sends fire not for show, but for refinement. You were born for it. That's why you couldn't stay lukewarm. That's why shallow environments made your spirit restless. That's why your prayers had to deepen, because the flame on your life demanded it. This is what few people understand. Fire is both confirmation and preparation. It confirms you are chosen, and it prepares you to carry the weight of glory. You are not weak. You are not underqualified. You are flame-hardened. You've endured isolation, not because you were disqualified, but because God wanted to remove every idol, every dependency, every attachment that couldn't withstand the next level of heat. Yes, the fire hurt. It burned through relationships. It consumed your comfort zone. It stripped you down to only what was eternal. But in the ashes, God saw something no one else did. Your yes still standing. And that's what He builds on. Not gifts, not popularity, not perfection. He builds on a spirit that has said, through the tears, through the silence, through the storms, still I will obey. That's where fire forges authority. The authority to speak and see chains break, to walk into chaos and release peace, to declare identity over someone the world has called forgotten. You now carry that authority not because of what you studied, but because of what you survived. There is a difference between called and confirmed. You've been confirmed in the fire, and now you are dangerous, because you've been through what others ran from. And you didn't just come out, you came out burning, not with bitterness, but with blue flame clarity. You know who you are. You know who you belong to. You know what you're carrying. And most importantly, you know how much it cost. That cost has protected your oil. It's preserved your purity. It's made your yes expensive, and your obedience non-negotiable. Now, the places you used to fear, you walk in with calm fire. The people who once rejected you, you now pray for with clean hands. The systems that tried to bury you, you outlived them, because fire doesn't just refinate, resurrects. There is resurrection on your name now. The things that were left for dead, your voice, your vision, your confidence, they're rising with flame around them. People will say, I thought they were finished. But heaven will say, they've just been reforged. And now your very presence speaks of the furnace. You walk in fire insurance. You speak with a forged tongue. You carry prayers birthed in the embers of surrender. Chosen one. This is why the fire wouldn't let up. It was building you, bending you, branding you. Your life is no longer common. It never was. But now it shows, because God has branded you with something that cannot be mimicked. You carry holy fire. And from this day forward, everything around you will feel it. Rooms will adjust. Demons will scatter. Hearts will be convicted. Not because of your voice, but because of what you've been through. As the prophet Zechariah recorded in chapter 13, verse 9, I will bring that group through the fire and make them pure. I will refine them like silver and test them like gold. They will call on my name, and I will answer them. Emsto, this is you, the fire walkers, the remnant, the ones who pass through without smelling like smoke, not because of skill, but because God walked with you inside the flames. Don't hide your fire. Don't dim it to fit in. Don't apologize for the intensity. The world doesn't need more lukewarm leaders. It needs people who have stared into fire and still chose God. That's you. And now it's your time to burn. God has remembered you. Chosen one. It may have felt like heaven forgot. Like the prayers you prayed went unanswered. Like the tears you cried vanished into the wind. You've watched others be seen, celebrated, lifted up, accelerated, and silently your heart whispered, Did God keep me? But let this truth settle in your spirit now. God has remembered you, not in some distant, passive sense, not as an afterthought, not because you cried loud enough or long enough, but because the time has come to fulfill what was always written. You were never forgotten. You were being formed. You were not on pause. You were on the potter's wheel, hidden in a secret place, protected from premature exposure, shielded from applause that would have fed the wrong parts of your soul. God didn't forget. He concealed you for your protection, not your punishment. There were doors you wanted to walk through, and He didn't open them. Not because He didn't love you, but because what's behind them wasn't worthy of your destiny. There were relationships that fell apart not by accident, but by design. They couldn't go where you were going. They would have diluted your voice, distorted your assignment, and delayed your becoming. There were platforms you could have reached, but heaven blocked the reach. Why? Because God would not allow you to rise in places where your anointing would be reduced to performance. He didn't forget. He was watching, guarding, refining, and writing. Every unseen act of obedience has been recorded. Every uncelebrated sacrifice has been etched in the scroll. Every whispered yes in the dark has echoed through eternity. And now comes the moment when heaven leans down and says, It is time. is no. God remembered Noah's hand. The flood began to recede. He remembered Hannah's hand. Her womb opened. He remembered Rachel and Joseph was born. He remembered his covenant and Israel was delivered. The same God who remembered them remembers you. Not because you demanded it, but because he promised. You have not been wandering. You have been walking the long road of alignment. Every delay had a divine fingerprint. Every detour was a divine lesson. Every dry season was a deepening, not a denial. This is why your spirit has been heavy lately. Not because you're lost, but because your season is shifting. Your inner world is realigning with heaven's timeline. You're not late. You're on schedule. You are exactly where you need to be before this moment of remembering. Not everyone is remembered this way. Some build on sand and vanish with the tides of culture. But those who are sealed, those who have walked through fire, resisted compromise, and stayed anchored when everything in them wanted to run, those are the ones heaven remembers with power. This remembering isn't just nostalgia, it's activation. It means the scroll is being reopened. The sentence is resuming. The next page is turning, and with it comes release of resources, of clarity, of divine relationships, of mantles you didn't ask for but were born to carry. The memory of heaven is not fragile like man's. When God remembers, things move. When God remembers, favor finds you. When God remembers, people are stirred to bless you without understanding why. When God remembers, the things you were building in silence begin to speak louder than shouting ever could. He remembers the night you almost gave up, but chose worship instead. He remembers the time you forgave without apology. He remembers the sacrifice no one else saw, but you laid down anyway. He has remembered your posture. And now, it's time for others to see what heaven has always known. The invisible season is ending. The veil is lifting. The mantle is fitting. The page is turning. You are not being introduced, you're being revealed. Because this is the hour God brings forward those who were trained in secret. He's not using loud. He's using loyal, not famous, but faithful. Not perfect, but surrender. That's you. You didn't chase the stage. You chased his voice. You didn't grasp for influence. You bowed for intimacy. And now, heaven is responding not with applause, but with unfolding. What was hidden is being called forward. What was planted is now sprouting without strain. What was promised is standing at the door. This is more than favor. This is fulfillment, as it was written in the book of Genesis, chapter 30. Verse 22 says, "Then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb." End 1. This is your open womb moment, where dreams you buried spring back to life, where prayers you whispered suddenly echo with answers, where the ache in your spirit finds divine closure, because heaven has remembered you, not just with comfort, but with completion. And what comes next will not look like anything you've lost. It will look like everything you were prepared to carry all along. You are not forgotten. You were hidden for glory. And now, the glory is beginning to rise. You're not dreaming, you're awakening. Chosen one. What you're feeling is not imagination. This stirring, this urgency, this shift in your soul, it's not random. It's not emotionalism. It's awakening. And it's happening now because heaven has declared, enough sleeping, enough hiding, enough shrinking back. It is time. Nah, You are not just waking up to purpose. You are waking up to identity, to truth, to the weight of what's been buried in you for years. This isn't a motivational moment, it's a prophetic activation, a spiritual alarm clock going off inside your chest, saying, "This is what you were born for." End of 40. Everything inside you is starting to come alive. The gifts you thought faded, stirring. The voice you tried to silence, strengthening. The dreams you shelved, returning with fire. You're not becoming someone new. You're finally becoming who you've always been. Because deep down, even as a child, you knew there was something more. You sensed things before others said them. You carried burdens you couldn't explain. You wept over things no one else noticed. Why? Because your spirit was never asleep. It was simply waiting for this hour, waiting for this seal, waiting for this sacred moment where the atmosphere would shift and the flame would ignite and you'd never go back to sleep again. You're not coming alive just for yourself. You're coming alive because God is reintroducing you to the world. Not the version of you that survived. Not the version that compromised to be accepted. Not the one that lost pieces of themselves in failed relationships, systems, or silent years. But the original blueprint. The you that heaven wrote. The you that hell fears. The you that shakes rooms not with noise, but with presence. And now, your awakening has become unavoidable. It's burning through doubt. It's challenging comfort. It's forcing you to either rise or remain. And you know deep in your bones, you can't stay the same. This is not a phase. It's not an emotional high. It's an alignment with heaven's timeline. A window that opened and found you ready. Ready to let go of what kept you small. Ready to step out of systems that kept you stuck. Ready to walk in rooms where your authority no longer shrinks to fit the atmosphere. You were never called to adapt. You were called to awaken. And the awakening isn't coming with ease. It's coming with fire. Fire that consumes distraction. Fire that exposes idols. Fire that whispers, "Come higher. Come further. Come now." End quote. And as uncomfortable as it is, you're responding. You're moving. You're shifting. Even if you're scared, you're stepping out. Even if you don't have all the details, your spirit has said, "I can't stay where I was." End quote. And that obedience is unlocking things heaven has been holding for this exact moment. Relationships that are spiritually aligned. Assignments that stretch you but don't drain you. Provision that meets the weight of your purpose. And confirmation from strangers, mentors, even your dreams that you are not crazy. You are not alone. You are not off track. You are right on time. Chosen one. Don't downplay this. What you're feeling is not high peaks, history being written through your yes. You've crossed a line now, and once the sealed awaken, they never go back. You'll pray with boldness that unsettles mediocrity. You'll worship with intimacy that silences fear. You'll speak with weight that breaks cycles. You are no longer the same, and you won't apologize for it. As Paul writes in the book of Romans, chapter 13, verse 11 says, "The hour has come for you to wake from your sleep, because our salvation is nearer now than when we first believed." That hour is now. And if your spirit knows this word is for you, if you feel the tremble in your chest, the tears without logic, the clarity rushing in like a flood, then pause. Acknowledge it. Say yes. And respond prophetically in the comments. Type, "I won't miss it." 3 simple words. but they mean everything. They say, I hear you, Lord. I'm done sleeping. I'm ready to rise. So if this moment struck your heart, don't let it scroll away. Like this message, if it met you in the middle of your shift, share it with someone else who's stirring and doesn't know why. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next, because the scrolls are not finished. And heaven is still speaking. You are not dreaming anymore. You are awakening, and nothing will ever be the same again. This is not just a moment. It's a mantle. Chosen one. What is resting on your life now is not temporary. It's not a fleeting wave of inspiration. It's not a passing emotional high. What's happening in your spirit right now is the placement of a mantle, a divine weight, a sacred assignment, a heavenly commissioning that will shift the course of your life forever. You're not just being encouraged, you're being clothed. Heaven is wrapping you in something ancient and burning, a mantle not made of fabric, but of fire, a calling not rooted in title, but in trust. You've reached the point in your journey where grace is being upgraded. What used to cover you as a disciple now begins to shape you as a leader. What once stretched you now fits you. What once terrified you now feels inevitable. Because the mantle always finds its moment. And tonight it's yours. Not because you asked, but because you've been found faithful. In the obscure, in the quiet, in the painful, you kept showing up. You kept bowing low. You kept saying yes, even when nothing around you said promotion. And heaven has taken notice, not in pity, but in confidence. You're not being pitied into power, you're being trusted with weight. That's what a mantle is. It's not applause, it's assignment. It's not privilege, it's responsibility. It's not spotlight, it's service. When Elijah placed his mantle on Elisha, he didn't give him fame. He gave him fire and responsibility. He gave him a spiritual infrastructure that would carry double the glory and double the cost. And Elisha didn't receive it casually. He burned the plows. He slaughtered the oxen. He left everything familiar behind. Because when the mantle touches you, your old life becomes too small to return to. That's what you're feeling now. A holy discomfort with who you used to be. A divine dissatisfaction with what used to satisfy. A clear, quiet knowing, I can't go back. Oh, not because of pressure, but because of presence. Something has shifted in your awareness. The fear is still there. Yes, but so is fire. The uncertainty is loud, but so is the calling. You are not the same. You can't pray like you used to. You can't move like you used to. You can't ignore what you know is inside you anymore. Because when a mantle is placed, something is activated. It's more than a message, more than a season, more than a dream. It's a divine entrustment. You now carry something for others, not just for yourself. Your voice is not just for healing, it's for release. Your hands are not just for worship, they're for impartation. Your presence is not just for survival, it's for atmosphere shifting. That's what the mantle does. It makes ordinary people walk in extraordinary weight. It turns the overlooked into overcomers. It turns the hidden into hosts of heaven's glory. But hear this, chosen one, the mantle is heavy. It's not just glory, it's grit. It's not just fire, it's formation. It will demand more than you feel ready to give, more consecration, more obedience, more stillness. You won't be able to keep shallow habits anymore. You won't be able to stay in unaligned places anymore. You won't be able to entertain familiar distractions anymore, because the mantle has marked you, and it will protect what's been placed on your shoulders. Even when you try to go back, it will remind you, you carry too much now. Omnis. That's why your heart has felt heavy, not with depression, but with destiny. Not with grief, but with glory. You're not breaking down, you're being wrapped in purpose. And when people look at you, they may not understand. They'll ask why you're shifting, why you're more silent, why you walk with gravity now. And all you'll be able to say is, I was mantled. Omnis, not by man, not by manipulation, but by the hand of the living God. You'll feel it in the way you pray. Your words will have weight. You'll feel it in the way you walk. Your steps will carry presence. You'll feel it when you speak, because the Spirit will begin to speak through you with surgical precision. People will weep. Atmospheres will shift. Bondages will break not because of your ability, but because of the mantle. And once it rests on you, it stays. Even when you don't feel qualified, even when you're unsure, even when you're still healing. Because the mantle isn't placed because of your perfection. It's placed because of your posture. You bowed low, and God wrapped you in weight. As it is written in the second book of Kings, chapter 2, verse 13 says, He picked up the cloak that had fallen from Elijah and went back and stood on the bank of the Jordan. Elisha didn't just pick up a piece of cloth. He picked up a legacy, a fire, a future. And now, so have you. This isn't just a moment. This is your mantling. Wear it with reverence. Walk in it with fear and trembling. And never again doubt what's been placed on your life. The weight is real, but so is the glory that will follow. The throne has your name on it. Chosen one. Everything in your life has been leading to this realization. You are not simply a servant. You are a son, a daughter, a royal heir in the kingdom of heaven. And sons do not beg. Daughters do not grovel. They walk with the quiet boldness of those who know their Father is King. And yet, life has tried to make you forget this. Religion tried to tame you. Rejection tried to silence you. Warfare tried to bury you. The systems of man tried to reduce you, but heaven never changed its mind. There's been a seat reserved for you at the table of purpose, not because of merit, but because of bloodline, not natural lineage but spiritual. You've been grafted in, adopted in, pulled into inheritance by the hand of mercy. And now, after the fire, after the crushing, after the pruning, you are beginning to remember who you are. This is more than calling, more than purpose. This is about identity. Because if the enemy can keep you doubting your identity, he can distract you from your authority. That's why the attacks targeted your self-worth. Why the betrayal made you question your value. Why the silence made you doubt your voice. Because the throne you're walking toward isn't made of prideites built on revelation. And the revelation is this: you've been crowned long before you were noticed. God didn't wait for the crowd to recognize you. He established you in the quiet. And now, in the stillness of this holy moment, the scroll speaks again. You are royalty, not for applause, not for domination, but for governance. You are not here to impress. You are here to occupy, to take ground for the kingdom, to sit in the seat prepared for you. Not as a performer, but as a presence carrier. Because heaven doesn't crown charisma, it crowns character. And your character has been forged in trials, in tests, in tears. In years of unseen obedience, now comes the authority. The moment you stop begging God to prove himself and start believing that he meant what he said, the moment you stop shrinking in rooms and start realizing that your presence has weight, you've been kept small by voices that didn't understand what you carried, by systems that preferred you hidden, by environments that tolerated you, but never truly received you. But that's over now. You are stepping into your kingly posture. You're not an orphan anymore. You're not in hiding anymore. You are not asking for permission to be who you were created to be. You are rising to rule, not over people but over darkness, over the fear that once dictated your pace, over the shame that once silenced your worship, over the spiritual inertia that once kept you from building. This is the rise of the enthroned remnant, the ones who rule not from pride, but from purity, the ones who understand that royalty is not about robes and ring sits, about responsibility to pray, to build, to release, to war, to stand when others fall. You were not anointed to hide. You were not sealed to sit idle. You were not awakened to blend in. You were raised to reign. And now, you feel it in your bones. Don't you? The shift in posture, the settling of authority, the divine weight on your shoulders, not crushing you, but establishing you. The world won't always recognize it, but hell will. Every step you take now shakes territory. Every word you release pierces atmospheres. Every movement you make sends signals in the spirit realm. The crowned ones are rising. As the book of Revelation, chapter 3, verse 21 declares, to the one who is victorious, I will give the right to sit with me on my throne, just as I was victorious and sat down with my Father on his throne. That promise was not poetic. It was positional. You are not working your way toward the throne. You were born for it. Born to occupy. Born to reign. Born to establish the government of God through your life. Every attack was to convince you otherwise. Every storm tried to push you away from this moment, but none of it prevailed, because sealed ones don't sink. They ascend. You've ascended from doubt, from fear, from delay, and now you sit in the place God reserved for you, not behind, not beneath, but in alignment with his authority, chosen one. The throne isn't coming. It's been waiting. And tonight, heaven says, take your seat. Avo, chosen one. If you've made it this far, it's not by chance. It's not algorithm. It's not timing. It's divine orchestration. Every word in this message was crafted for your spirit. Every section peeled back layers of your calling. Every confirmation was a whisper from the throne. You were right to stay. You were right to believe. You were right to fight for what you couldn't yet see. Oh, now you've crossed the threshold. You are no longer asleep to your identity, no longer delayed in your alignment, no longer unsure of your place in this generation. Heaven didn't just mark you. It has mobilized you. You don't leave this moment as a listener. You leave as one who has been ignited. So now, walk in what was revealed. Speak what was sealed. Build what was burning. And know this, the one who called you will also carry you. If this word spoke to your spirit, if you feel the shift in your belly, the weight in your chest, the clarity in your mind, don't scroll past it. Like this word, so others can discover their own confirmation. Share it with someone who's been praying in silence, waiting for God to remember them. Subscribe, so you never miss the next release of scrolls and sealed words. This journey has just begun, and if the fire stirred you deeply, consider sowing into this. Well, every gift keeps this stream burning. Give only as you're led, not from pressure, but from prophetic agreement. Finally, comment below with your declaration. I am God's chosen one. Seal it, speak it, walk it,